Good evening. If you would take your Bible out and turn to Exodus 28. It's a pretty decent length of reading as we start, but I can describe it all, or we can read it the way God wrote it, similar to the way God wrote it. We'll do that instead. Exodus chapter 28, we'll start in verse 1. Exodus 28, verse 1. Then bring near to you Aaron, your brother, and his sons with him, from among the people of Israel, to serve me as priests, Aaron and Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. You shall make holy garments for Aaron, your brother, for glory and for beauty. You shall speak to all the skillful, whom I have filled with spirit of skill, that they make Aaron's garments to consecrate him for my priesthood. These are the garments that they shall make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, and a coat of checker work, a turban, and a sash. They shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons to serve me as priests. They shall receive gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen. They shall make the ephod of gold and blue and purple and scarlet yarns, and a fine twined linen skillfully worked. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces attached to its edges, so that it may be joined together. And the skillfully woven band on it shall be made like it, and be of one piece with it, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen. You shall take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of the names on one stone, and the names of the remaining 6 on the other stone, in the order of their birth. As a jeweler engraves signets, so shall you engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall enclose them in settings of gold filigree. You shall set the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones of remembrance for the sons of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord on his shoulders for remembrance. You shall make the settings of gold filigree, and 2 chains of pure gold twisted like cords. You shall attach the corded chains to the settings. You shall make a breastpiece of judgment in skilled work. In the style of the ephod you shall make it, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen you shall make it. It shall be square and doubled, its span and length. Verse 16. It shall be square and doubled, a span its length, and a span its breadth. You shall set in it 4 rows of stones. A row of sardius, topaz, and carbuncle shall be the first row. The second row, emerald, sapphire, and diamond. The third row, jacinth and agate and amethyst. The fourth row, beryl and onyx and a jasper. They shall be set in gold filigree. There shall the 12 stones with their names according to the names of the sons of Israel. They shall be like signets, each engraved with its name for the 12 tribes. You shall make for the breastpiece twisted chains like cords of pure gold. And you shall make the breastpiece, for the breastpiece, 2 rings of gold, and put the 2 rings on the 2 edges of the breastpiece. You shall put the 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings at the edges of the breastpiece. The 2 ends of the 2 cords you shall attach to the 2 settings of filigree, and so attach it in front to the shoulder pieces of the ephod. You shall make 2 rings of gold and put them at the 2 ends of the breastpiece, on its inside edge next to the ephod. And you shall make 2 rings of gold and attach them at the front, at the lower part of the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod, at its seam above the skillfully woven band of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastpiece by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, so that it may lie on the skillfully woven band of the ephod, so that the breastpiece shall not come loose from the ephod. So Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastpiece of judgment on his heart when he goes into the holy place, to bring them to regular remembrance before the Lord. And in the breastpiece of judgment you shall put the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be on Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. Thus Aaron shall bear the judgment of the people of Israel on his heart before the Lord regularly. You shall make the robe of the ephod olive blue. It shall have an opening for the head in the middle of it, with a woven binding around the opening, like the opening of a garment, so that it may not tear. On its hem you shall make pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet yarns around its hem, with bells of gold between them, a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate around the hem of the robe. And it shall be on Aaron when he ministers, so its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, so that he does not die. You shall make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it, like the engraving of a signet, holy to the Lord. And you shall fasten it on the turban by a cord of blue. It shall be on the front of the turban. It shall be on Aaron's forehead. And Aaron shall bear any guilt from the holy things that the people of Israel consecrate as their holy gifts. It shall regularly be on his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. You shall weave the coat in checker work of fine linen, and you shall make a turban of fine linen, and you shall make a sash embroidered with needlework. For Aaron's sons you shall make coats and sashes and caps. You shall make them for glory and beauty. And you shall put them on Aaron your brother, and on his sons with him, and they shall shall anoint them, and ordain them, and consecrate them, that they may serve me as priests. You shall make for them, verse 42, you shall make for them linen undergarments, and cover their naked flesh. They shall reach from the hips to the thighs, and they shall be on Aaron and on his sons when they go into the tent of meeting, and when they come near to the altar to minister in the holy place, lest they bear guilt and die. This shall be a statute forever for him and his offspring after him. If you're a seamstress, or if you are familiar with garments, a lot of that probably made sense. But if I were to hand you building plans, few of you could probably read them, although the carpenters, the plumbers, and the electricians would say, oh, this is exactly how they're laid out. So for those of you who do not understand what you just read, I'm with you. How all of this is supposed to be laid out, I'll trust other smarter people than me to tell me exactly how this looked. I read the pieces. I see the ingredients. That doesn't mean that I can make the souffle rise. So, I found some pretty cool pictures, people that went to extraordinary lengths to try to recreate what these items of clothing were. And the one in the middle, the one on the left, are probably very close. The one on the right is there for what's in his hands, the Urim and Thummim. And we'll get to that at a later point. The point is, why these garments? An excerpt from Moses and the Gods of Egypt reads, the garments of the high priest are described in verse 2 as holy garments. According to this verse, they were to be for glory and for beauty. The priestly office was intentionally elevated in the eyes of the people. This apparel would serve to distinguish the priests as a class by themselves, in a certain sense, above the rest of the nation. The distinctiveness of the garments, along with their beauty, would be a constant reminder to the priests themselves of their holy station and its demand for consecrated living. A point. Verse 2. Everything was supposed to be done for glory and for beauty. In almost every English translation, these are the two words that are used: glory and beauty. Some of the other words that are used instead in other translations are for dignity and honor. At any rate, the assessment from that book is a fair assessment. When you see these robes, this ephod, these garments, you're supposed to say, that's a different kind of person. That is special. What they've got going on, the work that they're involved in, it's not normal. They are different. This is the way that God has designed these garments. The word skill, or skillfully, the word meaning the work that goes into the creation of these garments, is used 6 times in this chapter, and I think once in the next chapter, about how this is supposed to be created. It's not just that the tabernacle itself is supposed to be nice, and the furniture in the tabernacle is supposed to be nice, but those who are ministering for the people to God, or to the people for God, they're supposed to be set apart. They are supposed to be different as well. And that starts with the very garments that they put on, with the things that they wear to go to the people. Understand that the garments themselves are of the highest importance as well. Not just that the tabernacle got laid out the way it was supposed to, with the right dimensions and made of the right items, but the very garments that the priests wore. It's a big deal that these garments were very important. The priest has a special role, so he gets special garments. And if you'll remember the work that the tabernacle is made of, those items that the tabernacle is made of, it's the same items that this ephod, the robe, are made of as well. The veil, the entrance to the veil, the entrance to, and the curtains around the tabernacle, blue, purple, fine twined linen, gold work. It's the same material as what the tabernacle is made out of. And that's important because, remember, previously we talked about the veil itself. The entrance to the tabernacle itself symbolizes, or will be used as a symbol that points to Jesus. When Jesus dies, that veil is ripped, saying that it's through him that you have the ability to access God. And these same materials are used to clothe the priests themselves who are doing the work. So let's look at some of the bigger parts of the outfit. The ephod is mentioned from verses 6 to 14 in the way that it's constructed. And it's a vest or an apron. The word ephod is used. It's a weird word. We don't really know what ephod means. If you went back and looked it up, you'd get what people say, this is what it has to be because this is how it was worn, or this is how they were told to construct it. Maybe we should think vest or overgarment because of the way that they are told to construct it. Maybe apron, but it went on over the robes, and it looks a little bit different. It looks different and it acts different. Whenever you see someone wearing an ephod, whenever you see someone wearing this garment, you say, oh, that's a priest. That distinguishes you. You're a priest. A lot of people wore robes. A lot of people wore tunics. But if you wore an ephod, well, then you were assuming the role of a priest. That's kind of what set you apart to be distinguished. In 1 Samuel chapter 2, God asks there in verse 28, did I ask you to wear an ephod for me? Did I appoint you for that kind of work? There as a kind of a summary statement of, did I make you a priest? Is the question, the essence of the question that he is asking. So the ephod, that vest or that apron, that over item, is going to come to symbolize a priest. Of note, on that ephod, there's the onyx stones on the shoulders that bear the names of the tribes of Israel. 6 on one, and the remaining 6 on the others. And it actually, the scripture actually goes and points out, thus you will bear the names of the children of Israel. You're going to bring the people of Israel into God's presence. Hey, elders, you're going to bring God's people to him. It's a big deal. Now, imagine if you'll take and turn that phrase into something that we would be also familiar with, something that's heavy on your shoulders, something that bears weight on your shoulders or pushes down, something that you would carry with you. And this is what the priests are to carry forward into God. A portion of this ephod is this breastpiece of judgment. Not a breastplate. It's not a plate work. It's a breastpiece work. And it is a breastpiece of judgment. On it are individual stones with the individual names of the tribes of Israel. If you read along in your Bible and did not read from the English Standard Version, you probably read different jewels. Nobody knows what the jewels are. They're precious stones. They are individual stones, and from the beginning of the Bible to the end of the Bible, these precious stones are brought up, and if you'll read 10 different translations, you'll probably get 6 different lists of what those precious stones were. It's just one of those things that wasn't saved throughout history for us to know. What we do know is that they're all precious stones. Whether it's rubies or emeralds or diamonds or jades or topazes or other ones that we don't even know, like what is a carbuncle or maybe a jacinth. It's precious. The tribes of Israel, the people of God, are precious to him. We'll look at it in a moment as well. This breastpiece of judgment is made of doubled up work so that it makes kind of a pouch. And inside are the Urim and the Thummim, and we'll look at those in a moment. But it makes kind of a pouch on his chest so that you can put your hands into the pouch, whether from the sides or from the top, where these other 2 stones were kept. And the word, the direct translation for breastpiece of judgment as it is used here is chest ornament. The wording for what it is actually it's a chest ornament, which sounds in itself kind of funny or peculiar, but this is the special thing for God. The special thing for God that the priest is carrying forward are the people of God. That should be a smile for the people of God. That, look, there's my tribe. It's the one on the left at the top. It's this beautiful, lustering purple. It's just one that I know that my people are represented before God. I know that when the priest goes into the tabernacle, when the sacrifice is offered, I'm written on him. That's my family name that's going before God. In Malachi, it is said, "And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him." The Old King James, the only translation that calls these jewels, these precious stones, jewels here. And this is what is on this breastpiece of judgment at the front of the ephod. Inside that pouch are the Urim and the Thummim. They're hard enough to say. They're even harder to figure out what they are. They are in the breastpiece of judgment. And the breastpiece of judgment was consulted when there was no prophet available. And commentators are greatly distraught at how this exactly worked out. So Urim and Thummim mean, they don't know. They don't know exactly what these words mean. One they think means righteous, and the other one they think means light. But they think one meant positive, and that the other one might have meant a negative. And so the priest would consult these stones when a prophet was unavailable, and they would seek an answer from God based off of what these stones revealed. And I mean, there's some weird theories out there, like there were these stones and there were mixing stones with them, and they would cast them on the table like some kind of pagan ritual that we might have seen in a movie, and that how they laid out gave an answer. That doesn't sound like anything else in the Bible, though. I have two theories, or I've read two theories that I kind of think, well, that might work. And I don't know if either one of them is correct, and both may be wrong, but they just kind of make sense. That one, Urim and Thummim are written on both sides. So you got Urim, and then you flip them over and it says Thummim and Thummim. And that both of these go inside. And that if you pull both of them out and Urim is both up, then that's a positive response. And if Thummim and Thummim are both up, well, that would be a negative response. But if there's Urim on one side and Thummim on the other, that's no response whatsoever. You have to have the ability to get no response, because in 1 Samuel 28 verse 6 it says that the Lord did not answer him by Urim. So there's some way that it can give a non-response. The other would be that one of them was positive and the other one was negative, and they just kind of both sat in there mixing around, and whenever you needed to have an answer, it would be whichever one got pulled out. And if both got pulled out, that would be a neutral or a non-response. He said, I don't know how it worked, but this was how God answered questions when prophets were not available, how the high priest could give an answer when the people came to consult from God. At any rate, it would point to the difficult judgment matters. You should look directly into what the prophets have to say. What is it that God has written down in the Bible? Sometimes I can't find a straight answer for whatever my problem might be. That's when I need to go to God. It's said in Exodus 28 that this is kept directly on Aaron's heart, that he bears the name of the people that are on the front of this pouch directly on his heart. He carries this Urim and Thummim right there on his heart, so that when I need to go to God, I need to open my heart to him and ask him to show me whatever answer that I need to receive, that I need to have from him. That I would do that nowadays. I would do that in prayer. A symbol that we would go to God and ask him in prayer. Also a good reminder that sometimes he puts off giving us an answer, or sometimes no is just the answer. But these will be borne right on the front of the chest. That's the ephod. Underneath the ephod was a blue robe. The blue robe can be read in verses 31 to 35. It was to be seamless. There's another tunic that's pretty famous in the Bible for being seamless. If you want to read about it, it's over in John chapter 19, verse 23. There's some soldiers who are casting lots for this seamless garment that Jesus was wearing. And I'm not thinking that there's a critically important tie between that garment and the garment that we read of in Exodus chapter 28. But the idea that I kind of get from the soldiers is, well, who can be like Jesus? If this is what the high priest wears from Exodus chapter 28, and we see also that Jesus is going to wear a garment that is made in the same way, maybe Jesus is who we should be looking like. Might be a terrific pointer, although not a direct command that you could tie from this scripture straight over to there. This one garment, this one piece garment, hung down below the knees, and at the bottom of it, in the hem of the garment, were golden bells and pomegranates that were sewn into the hem. You're supposed to know where your priest is. You're supposed to know that he's in there working. It's also said that the golden bells are in there so that he doesn't die. God wanted to hear his priest. God wanted to hear from his people. And these golden bells were sewn into the bottom. Have you thought about, in reading something like this, it's not a colloquialism, but the saying that I'll be there with bells on? I'll be ready. I'll be there and excited. Your priest is making you right before God. There should be no higher level of excitement, of happiness, of joy than being right before God. That knowing that my salvation is being worked on. Ring that bell. I want to hear it. I want to hear my Savior say, well done. I want to hear my brethren pray with me and for me. I want to hear more singing like we had just a moment ago. I want to hear the priest doing the work. So the golden bells are at the bottom of the garment. Also pomegranates. Pomegranates are actually pretty big in the Old Testament as far as a symbol goes. They're going to be made ornately into the temple when Solomon does that. But here they are sewn in between the bells, every other one in a rotation. And pomegranates themselves, for the Hebrews, for the Jewish people, are a symbol of fruitfulness. Now, the pomegranate itself, just like many other things in this world, in different cultures, it means different things. But for the Hebrews, it means fruitfulness. Now, there's even more conjecture that goes further, like the number of seeds correlating. There's too much symbolism there. It means fruitfulness. Here, this fruitful work that the priest is doing on behalf of the people, God is recognizing. So that's the robe. At the top was a turban of white twine, fine twined linen, and on it a plate that says, Holy to Yahweh. And we read in Leviticus chapter 8 and verse 9 that this plate is also called a crown. It's called the both here. Leviticus chapter 8 verse 9. And he set the turban on his head, and on the turban in the front he set the golden plate, the holy crown, as the Lord commanded Moses. And so the priest wears holy to the Lord as his label. So everything else is ornate and beautiful. And you actually have words written on your priest. Well, what are they? They are the names of my family. They are the names of God's people. And at the very top, capping it all off, so to speak, is holy to the Lord. That all of these people are holy to the Lord. That all of the work being done by the individual wearing this plate or this crown is holy to the Lord. The golden crown is also discussed in Revelation as being something given to God's people as a sign of salvation, a sign that they have been saved. The stones were carved. But not only were they carved, they would melt down gold and fill in the carvings with gold filigree. I'm not great with filigree. It sounds like they melted down the gold, poked it into the holes so that you've got this beautifully golden name on the chest, on the shoulders for the people of Israel. The children of Israel, the children of God are carved in stone. Another wording or phrase that is continued down for forever for something that is permanent. I'm not trying to point at once saved, always saved, or bring up that kind of discussion. But when you become a child of God, you should forevermore be a child of God. When you belong to God, you should forever belong to God. But it's not just about what's written on the stone. It's that the gold is melted down and made pure. You should have your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life, not on these stones. We're not under the Old Testament. But you can have your high priest engrave your name in the Book of Life so that it would ever be before God. The gold filigree, gold is melted down. Gold's pretty much worthless without being melted down. It comes in clumps and clusters. There's a whole bunch of rocks that go along with it. And unless you clean it and make it pure and purify the gold and take away all the dross, it's just another rock. Very expensive rock, but it's just another rock. In Malachi chapter 3, verses 2 through 4, it talks about fixing gold. Who can endure the day of his coming? Who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and a fuller's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and refine them like gold and silver, and they will bring offerings in righteousness to the Lord. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to the Lord, as in the days of old and as in his former years. There's two items right here that work great as an invitation. First, is your name written? Is it written by your high priest? I know the high priest didn't write on this. It was Bezalel and Aholiab that would do the carving. But has Jesus the Christ written your name down in his book of life? Have you been purified through baptism as he has prescribed in the New Testament for his people now? Has he made you pure, clean, usable, and not just some really expensive rock? Not just somebody, but somebody of his. If you haven't become a child of God, you need to do that. But most of you have. So I go back to the statement that I read at the beginning from that book. The garments of the high priest are described in verse 2 as holy garments. According to the verse, they were to be for glory and for beauty. According to verse 2, they were to be for glory and for beauty. The priestly office was intentionally elevated in the eyes of the people. This appeal would serve to distinguish the priests as a class by themselves and, in a certain sense, above the rest of the nation. The distinctiveness of the garments, along with their beauty, would be a constant reminder to the priests themselves of their holy station and its demand for consecrated living. I'm thankful to God that we don't have to wear special garments, that we are supposed to be special, set apart, holy, consecrated for his work. I'm thankful to God that not a skillful worker that he created, but that his own son has purified my soul so that I can do his work and yours too. I'm thankful to God that we are suitable, that we are adequate to perform all of the duties that he has asked us to do. And if you found that this isn't the way you've been living, that you need to clean things up, then let's do that. And think about what the priests are going to do. The people of Israel are going to bring them animals, and they're going to slaughter them, and they're going to cook them, or burn them up completely, depending on what the sacrifice was. There's going to be blood everywhere. And from time to time, those fine, twined, pretty white linens are going to get bloody, or dirty, or dusty. There's a turban that goes around the head. It's going to get sweaty. It's going to get to a place where it needs to be cleaned, where it needs some maintenance done. And if you found that you've been doing really difficult work and that you need to clean some things up in your life, then make those maintenance steps and get those things cleaned up. If you need to become a Christian, let's do that tonight. Let's have your name written down. If you need the prayers of the church so that you can be maintenanced, cleaned up, made right again, then answer that call, whatever it may be, as we stand and sing.